Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield, the host of Manny Talks Shooting, and welcome to another episode. This is the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you like this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Talks Shooting. And without further ado, let's get to this episode. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Manny Talks Shooting, the shooting podcast on the internet, because I'm a glutton for punishment, and I have no free time because I make it that way. But anyway, let's get to the title sponsor of the podcast, Go Fast, Don't Suck. The hat is comfortable. It recovers my receding hairline, but it's so true. Go Fast, Don't Suck. Go check out their banners. They have new banner material, guys. It's mesh. You can see through it, yet get everything for your sponsor. So check them out. GoFastDon'tSuck.net. Tell them Manny sent you. Move on with your day. Without further ado, we could almost call this the unintentional roast of Tom Castro, but this is my buddy, Matt Kobi. Matt, how you doing today, sir?
Oh, that's for you, Tommy.
Yeah, so if anyone doesn't know, I met Mr. Matt Kobi back at the Michigan Sectional, friend of a friend, so we had to hook it up and we had to do a podcast because that's just how it rolls.
I'm going to go out on a limb and probably say this is going to be your least listened to podcast ever made so far.
I doubt that, but I mean, you can always try. It could always go worse.
Hey, let's roll with it, man.
Exactly. So, I still feel bad for this Michigan sectional. I really do. Like, I don't fuck with you at all throughout the day.
You're gonna start off with that shit already. You're not even gonna try to grease me a little bit.
No, I will.
What the hell, man?
I'll tell you, I feel sorry because I take a video of you and then I hear some bad news on the next stage. I'm like, are you kidding me? But we'll get to that later, listeners.
Okay.
I just feel bad because it's like I didn't fuck with you at all, and then I take one video of you and you're like, this is what fucking happens.
Yeah, dude, just give me a little lube before you put it to me, okay?
No, you're gonna raw dog it to yourself. But anyway, for you listeners, we got to know. You probably don't know who Matt Kobi is, but it's okay if you listen to the Castro Shooting Next Level podcast. His podcast is a long name. We're gonna change that.
Yeah, the Next Level podcast or some shit like that, I think.
So you might have heard Matt meanderingly drunking talk on there, but anyway, Matt, give him like the 5-second elevator spiel. Who's Matt Kobi and how did you get into shooting?
My name is Matt Kobi. I've been shooting USPSA for about 6 years. I am nobody that you would remotely know for my shooting ability. Managed to meet a lot of good people in the sport in the time that I've been in it. I've MD'd 2 USPSA clubs. I ran one in Florida with my buddies Tom and John, and then recently, since moving up here to Michigan, I took over another USPSA club, which is Bend of the River in Niles, Michigan. So that's kind of my short little resume.
Yeah. So Matt, how did you find USPSA in the first place?
You know, it was interesting, right? It's kind of little bit of a long story, but it was back in, I think it was around 2005, 2007 timeframe. A buddy and I would go to the range like once a week, and we kind of did a little bit of the tactard thing where we go to the range kind of dressed up, play Billy Badass, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So we're at the range one morning and we pull in, and it was Hanson Range in Punta Gorda. And we pull in and we see these guys there setting up all this shit like walls and all this other stuff. So we were asking one of them, like, what do you guys got going on here? And he's like, oh, it's a USPSA match. And I was like, what the hell's USPSA? And whoever the guy was at the time went on and explained it. And I was like, you know what? That sounds really cool. I said, what do we need to get into this? And he just like, gun at the time, pistol, have a holster, a couple mags, stuff like that. And you just slot into a division and shoot it, and we'll run you through it. So, we had all our gear with us, and we're like, yeah, this sounds badass. Let's do it, right? So did it, got absolutely hooked on it right away. Went home, signed up for a USPSA membership. I don't remember if that was back in the day where you had to mail it in or you could do it online. I really don't remember. But got the membership and went to the next match, shot that one. Loved it so much, I didn't shoot another one for another like 10 or 12 years after that. Just went through some stuff in life and moved around a little bit, and came back down to Florida And it was just one of those random things that popped up on YouTube, right? Just looking at gun stuff on YouTube. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember this. This was a lot of fun. I should look into that. So I started watching a little bit more videos, did some Googling, found out, at the time there were several USPSA clubs in the Tampa Bay area. So I was just like looking through a list. I'm like, okay, well, here's what I need: a belt, a holster, stuff like this. And put it all together. And I just went out to my first match. And that's where it really took. I got instantly hooked right away. And I mean, that was, like I said, it was about 6 years ago. And it's very few and far between that there wasn't a weekend or a weekday that we were shooting somewhere down there.
Mm-hmm.
So that is my short and long story about it.
Oh, there you go. Now, how far was your average drive to a match?
So in my area, you didn't have to drive real far. We had, God, I'm thinking probably 4 or 5 clubs within a 60-mile drive. That's Frostproof was out there, the Whack. We eventually started a USPSA club at Guncraft. A couple other ranges around Hanson, Hernando. Florida, you can't spit within 10 feet of any distance without hitting a range in a USPSA match down there. It's all over the place. You could literally shoot a match pretty much every night of the week if you wanted to.
Yeah,
So
that'd probably take some dedication, but it might be worth it.
well, yeah, it's not hard to find matches. It's hard to justify to the wife and kids why you're shooting all these matches all the time. You get so hooked in on it, and you're just it's almost like an addiction, man. It really is.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, like you think of it as a hobby, and then it becomes your life, right? Like you and I both, being match directors, it's far more than a hobby, and you've got to, like, I don't know how many hours I spend on the phone, either via messaging or phone calls with people.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I can't help it. It's not my fault. Like, and then every time you get on the phone, it's a rabbit hole down and farther. And you're like, or as soon as you hang up the phone, somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've got a lot more going on than I do, obviously, with the podcast and everything else. I can only imagine the amount of time that, you dedicate to this stuff. It's crazy, right?
Yeah. Well, it's truly a lot of time, but I quite enjoy it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I was like, when we ran the club down in Florida for a couple years, and then I got out probably 6, 7 months before we moved. I knew that was coming up, and Tom and my buddy John, we started the club together, so I just kind of stepped away, and transitioned it over to Tom. And I was like, I'm going to be leaving, and all this other stuff. And I was like, I will never ever run a USPSA club again. Well, I get up here, and it's almost right away that I hear that Bend of the River, where I'm at now, they had been looking for somebody to take it over for the past year or two. And I was like, well, okay, we'll see how it goes, up here again, and stuff like that, because it's a little different. Like down there, we were running basically anywhere from, oh my God, 5 to 7 matches a month is what we were running, because we did first and third Sundays. And every Wednesday night, we would essentially do it like a practice match, a 4-stage practice match. So that tends to, you do that for a couple years, it tends to burn you out a little bit. Mm-hmm. And, it's like, it was good to take a nice little break from it. I got a little bit of a culture shock when I came up here and winter hit, and there was absolutely nothing going on. I think that's what kind of got me back into it a little bit, is that I'm like, okay, well, I've had that nice little break, let's try this out again.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to it, like, there's no good indoor mat. Well, there's hardly any indoor matches unless you get over by Detroit. Like,
okay.
It's like, and people are like, why don't you shoot in the winter? I'm like, there's not a place unless I want to drive 2 hours for a 3-stage indoor local.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a little tough. I've gotten to meet a lot of the Chicago guys that shoot in our area through North Porter, mm-hmm. and those guys coming out to the Bend of the River. And I know that there's 1 or 2 indoor matches in the Chicago area that they put on. They're supposed to be really good. But just for me, if that match starts at 7 p.m., ends at 10 p.m., and then you have the time change back into Michigan, I'm not getting home till midnight. Well, I
At
get
the
up at
latest,
4.
yeah.
I get up at 4 a.m. to go to work, man. So that's just not going to happen, right?
Hmm.
So fortunately, the club I'm at now with the clubhouse, it's ventilated to where they can shoot indoors. So I've already talked to them about doing something this winter. So I'm hoping that's going to work out. I doubt it'll be an every week thing. I don't want to be that committed to it, but if we can pull it off maybe twice a month and just do like 4 or 5 kind of short, medium courses indoors just to keep everybody, their activity level up a little bit in the wintertime. I think it might be a good thing to do, but we're going to explore that and see where it goes.
Well, and honestly, that'd be nice too. Purely the fact you get people shooting and you get them to be You can easily get somebody in the sport in an indoor match in the winter, and then get them to come out. It's a good time.
Yeah, right. Like, you get them kind of trained up in that, especially a lot of the new guys, right? It's a lot kind of slower paced, a little bit more informal. It's good for drawing those new people in. I had my buddy Kyle Stevens down in Florida. He kind of started out with like that indoor Monday night match where he would bring in a lot of the new shooters, and that's where, he kind of found out about USPSA, and he still runs that match as far as I know. And it's a good thing for getting people involved in the game.
Hmm. Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's getting people involved is the hardest part. Actually, just getting them hooked to want to be from like, oh, I want to come out once in a while to I want to be there every match.
Well, I think there's a little bit of a little bit of trepidation sometimes in people getting involved in it. It's kind of slightly going outside your comfort zone and stuff like that. And it's something a lot of people haven't experienced, so they're kind of like a little cautious about it. And if you can make it a little bit more inviting to them, which is what we try to do with our Wednesday night matches down in Florida, is cater more towards the new people to kind of grow involvement into our, first and third Sunday level 1 matches type thing. We'd allow people come in, shoot their 22s, shoot their ARs, shoot whatever they wanted, right?
Hmm.
As a way of, and we had quite a few people that got in by doing that. We drew them in, they went out and bought all their gear and got a couple guys got quite highly involved in it, still are to this day.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see that.
Oh, 100%. It's nice. Like I've met a couple people, I've kind of helped mentor them into the sport, and it's kind of nice to see them off and on, because sometimes how matches at least line up here in the state, like you'll see somebody in a match on this weekend, and if you go to another club on like whatever other weekend, you might see him again.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing. The worst part about our section is nothing's close. Like there's not like 3 clubs within a super close distance.
Yeah, right. I've noticed you're doing some driving. That is for sure.
Mhm.
It was back in the middle of March when, air quote shooting season was starting back up. And dude, I'm not going to lie. I was jonesing, man. I was bouncing off the walls. Hadn't shot a match since I think November. And I'm like, holy shit, let's go. And, Michigan being Michigan in March, right? Like the first couple weekend matches were all canceled. And dude, I'm just losing my shit. I'm like, I need to go out and shoot a match. And finally, we got like a slight little weather break. And it was like the third or fourth weekend in March. And I saw in Fort Wayne, Indiana, they had a match
Mhm.
that, they were ready to go, hadn't canceled it. It was like 20 some degrees, but they were going to go with it. So I drove almost 3 hours one way to go to that match on a 6 stage local match just to finally get out and shoot again.
Yeah, that's the rough part
Pretty
right there.
hardcore.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's super hardcore at that point. Yeah,
Yeah. So if we can provide something locally, at least make it a reasonable drive, and in the wintertime, something that guys might want to do for the indoor thing, I think it'd be really cool.
yeah, 100%. That's for sure. So, how did I love Joe Majerone, but how did he trick you into being the match director?
So I've got another friend of mine that lives in this area, but he snowbirds down to where I used to live
Hmm.
in Florida. He's like, when I told him I was coming up here, he's like, hey, Bend of the River had been looking for an MD. The guy that ran it for years got kind of burnt out. He wasn't getting any help. Maybe you might want to talk to them. And I'm like, this is back in my face. Oh, hell no. I've done it for 3 years. I'm not doing it anymore. And like I said, after that long ass winter progressed, I'm like, I start Googling Bend of the River. I'm like, let's look it up and see what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
So I found the club contact for the president, sent him an email, introduced myself, and said, hey, I'd be willing to help out, getting USPSA back, going again. I hear you guys are looking for somebody. And he's like, well, funny enough, our previous guy, who was Joe, has been talking about kind of doing it again. Let me put you in contact with him. So, I emailed Joe. We went back and forth, and we finally spoke on the phone, text, and all that stuff. He's like, hey, man, I'll help you out any way you want. I'll build stages. I just don't want to run it anymore. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'll run it. You want to help me out? He's like, I got another guy who, big shout out to Jeff Rockwell for helping out building stages. So there's pretty much the three of us right now, kind of running everything. And we had our first match the end of April last month. And we put out a call for help, and I don't know if it's just God's good graces with the first match, but I had like 9 dudes show up that morning to help build. And I'm like, yeah, this is pretty awesome. Now, whether it sticks long term, forgetting that, because you know how it is, man. Getting help's the biggest problem, right?
Yep.
So I'm very thankful to all those guys. I mean, some of those guys came in from Chicago, so you're talking an hour and a half drive, and they were there 8 a.m. in the morning on Saturday helping me set up. We do our match a little different. We shoot at noon on Saturdays, so we have kind of with the range, they're very accommodating with us. They're like, hey, if you guys want to, because we have, I think it's like 14 bays on the range right now. And they're like, hey, if you guys want to come in early Thursday, Friday, whatever, and start to set up, great. We have the bay space. Go ahead and do it. So, Joe gets down there like Wednesday, Thursday. He'll build a stage or two. I get there Friday after work. I'll build. Jeff builds. And then we kind of just whatever's left on a Saturday morning when all the setup guys come in, what we comp them a match for helping out.
Mm-hmm.
They come in, throw the last 1 or 2 stages down, help us kind of proof everything, and we're off to the races. So far so good. It's a short-term sample. Let's see how it shakes out. But
Yeah.
happy so far.
Right. Well, and you guys, I think, took that from North Porter, because North Porter would do that on Saturday mornings and stuff.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's where Joe got the idea from, obviously. And, run a whole year with it. I know it kind of conflicts with a lot of people's schedules, and it eats up basically your whole day, right? Like where your normal match, you'll start at 9, you're done at the latest, usually around 1, and you're home with your family the rest of the day. We kind of eat into that because we're getting done around 4 p.m., right?
Yeah.
So we'll see how it works out long term. I'm really hopeful, just based on the turnout we had in an extremely, dude, it was like Michigan sectional bad weather. It might have been slightly worse for our first match, but we still had a really good turnout, which was awesome to see.
I mean, the day I shot the Michigan sectional, it was nice and sunny.
Dude, I don't need, yeah, let's not even talk about that, because that day it started out gorgeous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we got through the first 4 or 5 stages. What was it? 70 degrees. It was sunny. And then all hell broke loose, man. It was something interesting to see.
Yeah, it definitely was like, where the hell did this come from? It was pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, you could watch that weather roll in, and dude, I swear to God, it dropped 30 degrees in what, an hour, if even that. It was bad.
Oh, for sure it was bad. It was no bueno.
Yeah, you're telling me, right? I live with the repercussions of that weather change. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, yeah, y'all had to stand in the cold, but I was in my golf cart zipping around the range, running up and down the range like I'm freezing. I'm freezing.
Yeah, I think we got to I think it was like the last 3 or 4 stages. I had 2 sweatshirts on and a rain jacket. And I was so miserable, man. It was so cold. I'm like, I was not ready for that, especially given how the morning started, right? Like
Right.
it was just gorgeous.
For anyone who didn't see, I really wish I had a picture. He was like instant, like it was Florida man. It was just like,
Yeah.
I am cold.
I look like an Eskimo, dude. I had gloves on. I was just like, when you shot that video of me shooting that stage, I mean, it's just like snot running down my nose. It was just a scene, man. I'm like, this is not good.
It's okay. At least your squad wanted you hang out with them after looking like that, right?
Oh yeah, right. Like it's not embarrassing enough being a PCC shooter. Then they gotta live with all that other shit.
Right. Were you the only PCC on your squad?
I was. I think everybody like any other USPSA match. I think the rest of the squad was all carry optic shooters.
Yeah, that's the hard part too. Is they're all freaking carry optic shooters. It seems like now.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the participation level. Like I was looking at the registration for Area 5, and my God, it's got to be what 85% carry optics. Like
Hold
it's
my beer. I'll tell you.
crazy. What's that?
Hold my beer. I'll tell you. So let's see. Where the fuck is my graph? Damn it. All right, division. There you go. Let's see. 44. No, that's no way. 44% carry optics with 100.
Wow.
102 carry optic shooters. The next closest is open with 48 shooters at 21%.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. It's just it's all you see, even just locally, right? Like absolutely nuts.
Well, and it's weird. PCC has like died off, which is the
Well, and that's what I was having that conversation with somebody the weekend before. That's like there's no PCC shooters up here, and it's crazy, right? Like you go down, especially in Florida, there were a ton of us, but up here, I think, and just a random guess, right? If you look at the Area 5 stuff, what are there? Maybe 20?
11.
Oh, I mean, holy hell, dude. That's
Yeah,
nothing, right?
well, yeah, and especially when you compare it to last year, there might have been 30.
Yeah.
But you had like the Williams sisters were here, so then
Okay.
you could entice more people to shoot, other division. Oh, I'm sorry. There's 21.
Oh, well, now I feel so much better about myself.
At least it's okay. At least the first and second place will get a trophy.
Yeah, that's good. So
mean,
won't be me, but good for those guys.
Right, but so yeah, it's not enough. I don't know. It's hard. Like no one wants to shoot production. No one shoots single stack. L10 is dead.
Oh, yeah. I mean, dude, and for all intents and purposes, production's dead too, right? Like,
yeah,
just stick a fork in it. It's done, which is sad, but that's just it shows you the popularity of carry optics, right? Like,
well, but
so.
even if I don't know if it'd save it, but if you're able to put you'd have to change divisions around, and I don't know what the best answer is, and I know I'm going to piss somebody off if I tried to explain what I want to do, but I'll just
No, dude. Let's hear it, and I'll hit you with my thoughts.
Well, so here's the thing: revolver and single stack need to get put together, and you call it classic.
Okay.
So you have those guys duking it out. So at least then you'll get some shooters that are actually, that are shooting against each other. Production needs to, L10 needs to get scrapped.
Yes.
And production needs to go back a rule set. It needs to go back to 2017 production time frame, or even just make it 15 rounds. I don't know.
I think in my personal, and I'm not a production shooter, right? And I would never tell somebody what somebody that shoots a division obviously has a better idea of what it would improve it. While those rule changes were stupid, like the weight limit and everything else, I personally, to me, I feel like production 15 might actually, what stock service pistol comes with a 10-round mag? None, right?
No. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if you're not going to set it at 15 rounds or figure out just make it more true. And this is just my opinion, right? Mm-hmm. Make it more true to what the gun is off the shelf. Now, if you want to keep those rule changes with being able to change parts because ROs can't identify shit, whatever, so be it, right? But I think if you bumped it to 15 rounds or whatever, like a factory mag in the gun, maybe it draws more participation. But I think people are just so hooked on dots now. I don't know if you really did anything to it if it's going to revive it. I don't think it would.
Well, or honestly, make production irons or dot, but make it low cap and keep it at
Oh,
like 10 to 15 round. Like even if you put it to 15 rounds and you turn carry optics into limited optics as now, you could have some differentiating, people are still people still use Kydex holsters and limited optics, so
yeah.
it's not like the 2011 is going to make everybody better. We all know I shoot a 2011 now and I still suck.
No, you have, guys like, Nils and Tom and whoever else shoot the $600 polymer gun that are dick stomping everybody and their brother. A 2011, these range bros that show up with their staccatos, whatever, that aren't going to stick around more than a match or two. It's not going to mean shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think eventually, probably given the 1 year provisional status, I think everything's just going to get rolled together, and whether they title it limited optics, carry optics, whatever, just stick the 2011s in CO and give them a magwell, right? Like,
Yep.
what gun doesn't come with a magwell pretty much anymore, right? Like,
Yeah.
you've got one reload per stage. It's not a big game changer. Just combine them and be done with it after that provisional status. That's what I would do if I were king for a day, right?
I mean, I agree with you because honestly, like I was talking to Jeff Slusser,
Yeah.
and he's just like, all the bros just need to have this range etiquette and be like, we're all going to go shoot limited optics and just put magwells on our guns
Yeah.
because carry optics will be dead. I'm like, people like the problem with like an area match is right now the participation for limited optics will not guarantee you a slot to nationals in limited optics because
Yeah.
it's not ranking that yet.
Here's my personal opinion is I don't think limited optics is going to make it. It's not going to get the participation that CO has, right? Like,
Right.
it may be good, like I said, for the guys with their staccatos or their 2011s that come out once or twice, to get into it, and then they're never seen again, right? I think it's going to be kind of become like they're going to figure out a way to basically coalesce those two divisions and whatever the hell they want to call it, limited optics, carry optics, whatever fucking name they come up with. It's those two. I think those two will eventually be merged, and it'll obviously be king of the hill like CO is now, right? Like,
Right.
It'll go through some bullshit name change, and that's going to be the end of it.
Well, yeah, and
It'll
it's still
keep
going to
on
be
trucking.
exactly. It's still going to be people like Tom and Max Michelle and Nils stomping
Yeah,
everyone in the dirt anyway.
yeah. So, and believe me, I've learned this. It's always the Indian, not the arrow, right? Like, everybody knows that. It's the gun's not going to get you to the top of the heap or anything like that. It's all the skill and dedication that guys like that put into the game, that I'm pretty sure at this point Nils could go out and shoot a fucking high point and beat everybody's, ass into the ground, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's just the way it is.
Yeah. I will say that sometimes people are fighting gear to an extent where they need to change gear to actually get away from a problem they're having because of them fighting it.
Okay.
But that's so
Bless you.
sorry guys. It's so rare, to be honest with you. Yeah, sneezing on podcasts is the worst because you're like it always comes when you're trying to say something, and I'm terrible. I hold in my sneezes, people, so I will probably have a brain aneurysm at some point.
I was going to say, dude, if you could have seen your face when you were doing that, it was pretty good.
Yeah, so the video listeners will get to enjoy this.
Yeah, right.
At my expense. But I will say, like, when you're fighting gear issues, like, don't fight it like my 2011. I had to have my safety sanded down on the opposite side because I was fighting it, bumping up the safety with it. It's like at that point, sometimes changing gear will help you.
Okay.
But changing gear to, I want to shoot this new staccato. The staccato is going to make me better. Probably not.
Yeah, it's like, buying a steel frame rival's instantly going to make me better, right? No, not at all. Still suck. You're going to suck. Unless you put the work in, nothing's going to help you.
Well, and maybe, there's honestly, because say you were shooting open for a while.
Yes. I love open, man. I love open.
It's fantastic. But, that's a heavy gun, right?
Yeah.
And then say you switch to a super light 24, 25 ounce Glock. That weight difference is so crazy. So maybe buying a steel frame rival is somewhere in the middle, and it's kind of got that old heavyweight feel of the open gun, but being with a minor gun, sometimes the new gun does make things better.
At least in your mind, right? Like,
Oh yeah, it's not going to add to it's not going to give you 5 to 10% on people.
no, it's the total placebo effect, right? Like, oh yeah, I feel so much. Oh God, look how flat this thing shoots. And
Mm-hmm.
well, if I got a news flash for you, if you suck, you still suck, no matter what the gun is, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that's for sure. I will say I suck. Everyone sucks, except some people don't suck. But anyway, that's me. But yeah. So I guess I forgot to ask this earlier. What division did you come shooting USPSA into?
So I think if I remember right, the first match I shot, I had a Canik TP9 SFX with, I think it was whatever the cheap little Vortex Viper red dot on it is. Bought it as a kit, the gun came with it and all that. It was a good kind of bargain entry into it once I kind of refound the game again and
Mm-hmm.
started doing some research. I was like, oh, this red dot thing's kind of taken off. And I guess this was around, I think 2017, maybe. So CO, I think, just had transitioned out of 10 rounds. I think from what I've told, CO was 10 rounds previous. So it was right around that time frame where you basically load your mags up all the way. And I mean, hell, I bought that gun with a dot for maybe $700 back then. So, it was a good kind of gateway drug to get into it. I think the first couple matches I shot with that gun, I've kind of dabbled with everything: production, open, PCC. I don't think, short of, I think revolver is the only division I've never actually shot at a match. Because you couldn't even pay me enough to do that. That's just miserable. I
I mean,
don't I don't know
yeah.
who in their right mind ever wants to shoot a revolver.
I don't know. You might actually meet him at some point. His name is Alex Bakken. He lives up near Lansing,
Okay.
and he's a he was last year's, I want to say, third place revolver GM at nationals.
Yeah.
We call him our space cowboy, but
Yeah.
he's a good dude. He can rip on a fucking wheel gun, and it's just like, you're shooting a revolver as fast as some people shoot open guns. This is a
Oh yeah,
problem.
yeah. Like, dude, we had a guy. His name was Cliff Walsh that we used to shoot with locally down in Florida, and Cliff had actually won nationals, I think, several times shooting revolver. Actually beat Jerry Michalek, stuff like that. So, dude, like, watching a guy like that shoot a revolver, it was ridiculous, and it was so much fun to watch it. But dude, you could never, ever, no way. I live with a certain level of embarrassment in my shooting, but you couldn't put a revolver in my hand and ever pay me to do something like that. But he was really cool to watch. I
Yeah.
mean, you're talking a guy that was at the top of his game, probably, I don't know, maybe the early 2010s, something like that. So yeah, dude, it was amazing to watch somebody that's that proficient with that type of gun shoot. It was really cool.
Right. Yeah, and it's yeah, and those guns, I think they're almost more finicky than open guns, because you got to tune all the springs and make sure it's super smooth, like the action, and it's got to take federal primers. It's just like,
Well, yeah, I mean, aren't they essentially shooting double action every shot with those things? Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, so I can imagine they're tuned within a gnat's ass to get them,
yeah.
race ready, essentially.
Well, and then you got the worst part is, like, most revolver shooters couldn't keep shooting at the pace they were due to the fact that they need federal primers, and the softest primer you can get. And then when primers dried up, they're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, right. Like maybe join the 21st century and shoot something else, right?
Nah, you expect revolver people to do that. That's silly.
Yeah, no, I guess not. I mean, that's what they love, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
more power to them. That's just like that's a hard road to go down for sure.
Right. And then so you were in carry optics. Then you went to open, I'm assuming.
Oh God, dude, I don't even remember how this all even worked out. I think production was in there for a while, and then yeah, that's another one we're not going to talk about.
Silly
And
Matt
then
Kobe.
yeah, then found PCC, found open, and that's the thing I love about PCC, right? Like, I love getting all the shit about shooting PCC. I'm not ashamed to shoot it. It's essentially cheap open. You get to go really fast. You don't have to worry about, no reloads. Just, dude, you're just out there pure speed, right? Like for the upper tier guys, I'm talking.
Mhm.
And it's just a cheaper version of getting into open without major scoring, right? But if I had to pick one division, it would surely be open. There's nothing in the world like shooting an open gun, man.
Oh,
It's great.
oh, 100%.
Well,
There's
let me rephrase that. There's nothing like shooting an open gun that works properly, you
Yeah, that's
know.
true too. Yeah, you don't want to have a bad running gun. At that point, you just
No,
throw it
man,
away.
I cracked 2 slides on 9 major open guns, and I swore open off for a while, and then I found the holy shining light of 38 Super Comp and never looked back because no issues, no nothing like that.
Yeah, I mean, besides that, you have to be a brass chicken.
So there's a kind of a little side story with that. We had a lady that used to shoot at our range. Um, she would go once a week, and this woman was very, very wealthy, right? She would order ammo from Ely by the pallet delivered to her house. So we're talking $30,000 worth of Ely Super Comp
Hmm.
that she would get in one shipment. She would go to the range at Guncraft once a week on every Friday, and she would stand there in the same spot and bang away 1,000 rounds of Super Comp every Friday. And then she would train with JJ
Hmm.
every 2 weeks privately, always on the same bay. So me having access to the range and running the club there, I get to the match before the match at like 5 a.m. in the morning. And dude, I would spend about a half an hour picking up her brass in a pile. It was so thick I could almost shovel it into a bucket.
What you should
So
have
I
done
was
is
sitting,
just got one of those tarps from CED and just
yeah.
have the shoot there and be like, just shoot it into this,
And
please.
she never picked it up, man. And I walked away with 15 gallons of super comp brass. So that makes it infinitely easier to swallow that pill when you're getting free brass like that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So it was always really cool.
Yeah. Now, how difficult was moving? Did you load everything into a pod or did you drive a U-Haul?
So yeah, everything went in the pods. And what I did was all my components, I loaded up everything I had
Hmm.
before the move. Loaded, everything that I had powder and bullets for, just made all the ammo I possibly could. And then I sold all my shit.
Hmm.
Sold my press, sold everything, any little remaining components that I had. And I was just like, I don't think at this point anymore the juice is really worth the squeeze and reloading.
Hmm.
Because, I load, like I said, I loaded up all my super comp, I loaded up all my 9 minor, and I'm going through that. But in the if I can buy rounds of Supervel for 1,200 bucks, I'm the laziest person on the face of the earth. I don't like reloading. I don't like going out and doing it. It's a whole process, right? I'd rather spend money. And what am I saving by maybe a couple cents a round given the price on stuff now? Like it doesn't make sense for me to invest the time in it when I can just click.
Hmm. Oops.
Sorry, dude, I lost you.
Oh, you're good. I could hear you the whole time, so we're all good there.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's just I think out of sheer laziness, it works for me now just to buy ammo. So I've got all my stockpile of super comp if I ever want to shoot it again, stuff like that. But
Right.
I'm just buying my shit now. It just makes life a lot easier.
Well, yeah, and you don't have to worry about a press messing up or anything. Like,
Well, and it's like unless you're going to go with the Mark 7, it takes work, right? Like you're
mhm.
out there pulling a handle, and I haven't looked at components in 8, 9 months, so I don't really know what the market's like anymore. But dude, it just got to be a pain in the ass. Like you're following like Discord threads to try to find primers and powder, and it just got really annoying, right? It's like I was investing so much time in reloading where I can just click the button and have the shit sent right to my house and I'm done with it, right? So
Mhm.
I think that's kind of the route. And I'm not a guy that's shooting high volume 30, 50,000 rounds a year, right? I'm shooting 3, 4 locals a month, a couple majors in the year. So maybe I'm shooting 10,000 rounds a year, something like that. So it
Right.
just
Yeah.
makes no sense.
Yeah, and it's not like you're living in Florida anymore because, there's not matches. It's not like you can tag team a bunch of matches all week.
Yeah, right. Like I said, we could literally shoot a match any night of the week and weekend. Hell, we would drive. I mean, just for a local, even on an off Sunday, we'd be like, "Hey, let's just drive up to Volusia," and it's like a 2-hour drive. But if you have ever been in Florida and know the hell of driving on I-4 through Orlando, it gets to be kind of a pain in the ass. But that's what we would do, man. It's just like we would all caravan up together and just have a good old time and stuff like that. So
Right. Yeah. And that's what makes it worth it too, is the people that
yeah,
you
and you're hanging out with your buddies, which is obviously for me, it's the best part of the game, right? Like, it's the friendships you make, the people you hang out with. To me, that's the best part of it.
Right. Now, what does your training schedule look like now? Now that it's somewhat
Oh, dude, I've there's no training, dude. Come on. That's not me. I will go to the range occasionally and practice, but it's just for me, it's about shooting locals and just having fun.
Mhm.
That's what I do.
Is that why you're still B class trash?
Yeah, dude. Like I said, I've been I think a percent and a half away from A for the better part of probably 2 years. And I can't buy my way out of it, man. So I live with my embarrassment.
So what you need to do as a match director, you need to set up. I gotta send you this document. It's like the easiest classifiers, like the hardest to the easiest classifiers. I'll send it to you, so then you can have it and look at the numbers.
Oh, dude, I thought I had it in the bag 2 weeks ago. So we were at North Porter and they busted out one that is hardly ever shot. It's a part-time classifier. I think it was 0901. It was I can't remember what it was called, but like it was perfectly catered for PCC, right? Like you had the part-time between 3 strings at like 40 yards, 25 yards, and it's just ideal for PCC. I'm like, this is where it's going to finally happen. I did all the math and figuring out what I need. And do you think I didn't fuck that classifier completely up? Yeah, I absolutely did. So that's just the way it happens, right? And I always heard that, you know, eventually when you just decide to give up on classifiers is when you finally do okay on them.
Mhm.
So I think I'm finally hitting that point. So
Yeah, I mean, and even for me, like I will say this on the air. I am totally okay with being B class for life, long as I curb stomp M's and A's at major matches.
yeah, I get where you're going, but at a certain point, your pride's kind of like, what the fuck, dude? I've been doing this for 6 years and I still can't get out of of B class, right? So yeah, I'd like to make A, and it will eventually happen. All my bumps have come from match performance, never a classifier. So I'm hoping Area 5 kind of continues that trend a little bit, and I think if I do eventually make A class, that may motivate me to practice a little bit more. Because then obviously, if you're sitting in A class, right, you're like, I'd really like to get to M. I
Well, yeah,
I'll
and
never get the G, but I think I can do A and hopefully do M.
right. Well, and it's always that thing that people say. All the A class people are really masters who finally got their shit together enough
Yeah,
to make it
right.
right.
Yeah. And if it's kind of always that thing that if you're winning, I've won several majors in my class, right? In B class.
Hmm.
And it's always like, well, if you're winning B class, you're really an A class guy, something like that. That I think that old adage kind of holds true. And,
Hmm.
it's kind of the way it shakes out sometimes, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I can see that for sure. Now
But yeah,
I
I had that happen at a match. I think it was Georgia State like 2 years ago. I think I was like fourth overall in PCC, beat 3 or 4 M's, beat all but 1A. It's just like a really good match, right? And when you just see B class next to your name, people automatically think you're sandbagging. And I'm like, no, man, I shot the match of my life. That's just the way it happens sometimes.
right. Oh
So,
yeah, and sometimes you just got to shoot with your hair on fire half the time too.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I was doing pretty well at your match, at your sectional until that shit at the end. So
Yeah.
I've always
Yeah.
got that going for me.
And I felt so bad, especially when I heard how it happened. Like, I was just
Oh,
like,
dude, it was the world's dumbest DQ. As soon as we left the range, my first call was to Tom. I'm like, dude, I called my buddy John first, and then I called Tom. I was like, dude, you're not gonna believe this shit. This is like the most Matt Kobe shit you've ever heard in your life. And he's like, lay it on me. And I told him, he's like, dude, what, what the fuck are you doing? I was like, hey man, I got to be me, you know.
so what I need to do is we need to get you like a little keychain and like string it to your wrist, so like you can bungee your pistol grip to your hand.
Oh my God, dude, it was so dumb. Like I still try to wrap my head around it sometimes. How you can shoot a 10 stage match and finish and then DQ when you're done is just something I should have expected to eventually happen to me, but I just in my wildest dreams, dude, I wouldn't have imagined that even happening.
Well, but if
But
you think
it did.
there was only 2 DQs in that match, and they
Yeah,
both were PCCs.
yeah. And
And
yeah, it's not like I 180'd or AD'd or anything. I just did something completely dumb.
well, I mean, you didn't do the thing as dumb as the other person. I don't know them, but
Okay.
let's see, who is it? It was James Anderson,
Hmm.
and he had a loaded magazine in the safe table.
Oh yeah, that's pretty bad.
I was like, okay, bro. Like, I heard about that. I'm like, no way. People can't do that. Like, I mean, it's one of those
It
weird
it
things.
happens, man. Like you just have a brain fart, right?
Yeah.
Like that's all I can kind of attribute it to. But it was really bumming me out because like I'm not big on the practice score what if, but right after it happened and before you put my DQ into the tablet or uploaded scores or whatever you did, I was like, let's hurry up and go on practice score competitor and look and see where I was. And without that last stage being scored, I was 84% of the GM that took PCC, high PCC. And
Hmm.
I was like, dude, that stage would have probably maybe put me at 80 because it was a low round count stage. It might
Hmm.
have put me at like 85, 86% of that dude. And instead, I got fucking nothing, man. I got absolutely nothing, which is
You
the hardest pill to swallow.
right, because you finished the match.
I
The match.
finished the match. Yeah. And then, so do we want to talk about the stories? Is this the appropriate time?
I mean, it could be the appropriate time.
All right, let's make it. So yeah, I get done so like I mentioned earlier, you know, the first 4 or 5 stages, weather's absolutely beautiful. Then it turns to complete shit. And
Hmm.
Florida man is not used to shooting in like 40-degree weather and being cold and everything else. And my like the last couple stages, my hands were shaking. I was cold, just miserable. And the last stage we shot was, I don't know, maybe a 16 round. It was just a burner, right? So I hosed through it and I did pretty well on it. And the RO gives me the unload and show clear. So, you know, rack the round out, you know, if clear, hammer down. I hammered down and I pulled my, oh my God, dude, I'm having a brain fart. My charging handle back and my hand slipped off the charging handle and the mass between the bolt going forward launched the gun out of my hands before I got the flag in it. And I swear it was like a 15 or 20-second standoff with the RO where we're just sitting there looking at each other. I'm looking at him, he's looking at me. And dude, there's nothing being said, right? Like my squad's total dead silence. Everybody's just standing there like, what the hell just happened? And the RO's like, you know, I got a DQ you, right? And I just look at him. I'm like, yeah, I know you do. And that was the end of it. So I DQ'd because I dropped a gun before I flagged it.
Hmm.
So that was my story of the 2023 Michigan sectional.
Did
Great
you?
match, dude. You did a hell of a job on the stages and everything. I
Well, thank
just
you.
yeah, I just that sucked, right?
The only way I could think you could have rules lawyered it if he had happened to say range is clear.
Yes, then I'd have been okay because it would have just been a drop gun, and that was it.
Well, yeah, a dropped gun not in a course of fire.
Yeah, not under the course of fire, but technically, since I did not get the flag in it, it was still the course of fire. And
Yep.
I DQ'd it, which is totally on me. And I'd like to say that there's some giant life lesson in it, but it's just like, don't be a dumbass. That's all it boils down to.
Now my question is, which way did you go on that stage? Because I'm totally curious on how people
So
went that stage.
being a PCC shooter, I went left to right. To me, that transition from the left into that port, which was kind of the first position, right? Like you had, I forget the exact stage layout, but you had like one target or two targets on the left, and then that port kind of in front of you. Then you move down laterally to that other port. It just that way set it up really well for a PCC where I didn't have to drag the gun behind me and try to shoulder it running right to left. And we had that discussion in our squad, and a bunch of the CO guys on my squad shot it the same way. So I'd have to go back and look at the time. I'm not the fastest guy in the world, but it felt like a good stage at the time. It just, unfortunately, it's just a shitty way to DQ at the end of a major, right?
Yeah, 100%. It was just, yeah, you shot it. I pulled it up here. 1393 was they still got the time in there, which is
yeah. So I don't know where the really good guys did it. I would imagine they were probably like 10, maybe 9. I don't know, but it felt like a good run, and I think he traded a little bit of distance for better transitions, something like that, running it that way.
Yeah, you would have been 1, 2, probably the third fastest time.
Yeah.
Third, fourth fastest time on that stage.
Yeah, so it felt good at the time, but it just ultimately didn't work out in the end, which that's B-class trash, baby.
Right. Well, but you're so proud of that that Instagram name. It's so wonderful.
Yeah, I know. Well, it originally started out as C-class trash, and I was living high on the hog when I finally got to change it. So you better believe me, that day that A class is coming, yeah, it'll be known. That's for sure.
Yeah, I told my buddy, it was just like, yeah, you guys, you need to stop freaking winning all these C-class trophies. Eventually, they'll stop coming, and you'll be fighting in B.
Dude, if it wasn't for C-class trophy, here, you want to get into a real good story? So here's my real shit, right? The first major I ever shot was they did a 10-stage match at OK Corral in Okeechobee, Florida. It was like they did an Oktoberfest theme, right? So it was like the Schützenfest or something like that. And I had been shooting USPSA for maybe 6-8 months, something like that. And, finally got classified, C-class carry optics, new guy. I go to sign up to shoot this match with a couple buddies, and I'm looking at it, and it was a plaque trophy match, right, under the 357 format. So I'm like, we had 3 guys in C-class carry optics. I'm like, cool. So if I do okay, I might actually win C-class, right? this is the best shit ever, man. Here you go. So in shooting that match, one of the C-class guys DQs. Okay. So yeah, good, winning for me, right? Well, the second C-class guy, I didn't really know him at the time. His name is Jim Cusack. And if you don't know who he is, dude, I would really recommend getting him on the podcast. Jim was a police officer that he shoots from a wheelchair.
Oh, yep. I know exactly what you're talking about now.
He got ambushed, shot up. Hell of a dude. I love Jim to death. Got to shoot a lot of locals with him after the fact, but I didn't know who he was at the time. So I'm, end of the match, I find out, hey, this one guy DQ'd. I was first place. This guy named Jim Cusack's in second place. Well, I come to fucking find out he's in a wheelchair. So I'm like, I got my first plaque by beating a guy that shoots in a wheelchair and a guy that DQ'd. I'm like, but dude, you don't think I was proud of that plaque as a motherfucker at the time? I was absolutely living high on the hog, right? So that's, everybody loves to remind me that I got my first plaque beating a dude in a wheelchair.
But your friends would give you so much shit about it.
Oh yeah. And dude, Jim is the absolute nicest guy on the face of the earth, man. I love him. And what he does is absolutely amazing. It's really cool to see it.
Oh,
so yeah. That's my story, man. So that tells you where I'm at, is that's how I got my first plaque.
It could always be worse. You could always been getting it by like stealing it from a little kid, like a junior or something.
I mean, dude, come on, beating a dude in a wheelchair. Come on, man. Really, that's pretty bad.
I mean, But
I
Jim
would
would
take a
make,
junior win over that any day of the week.
yeah. Or it's okay. You could just call yourself a junior national champion. It's not
It's
my
good
fault,
shit, man.
guys. Yeah. No, but what else? I know I was gonna ask something. So, other than Area 5, what other majors are you shooting this year?
So I'm really, really hoping for PCC Open Nats. It's just going to be, since I moved up here, new job, vacation time, right? Like that turns into basically like a week off. So I'm really hoping I can pull it off. Um, I'm gonna try to squeeze in. I would have really loved to have gone to Area 6 and to shoot Buckeye Blast with you and Tom, but I just fortunately I couldn't make it out during the week. I think that's really going to be it, man. I'm just really hoping for Nats after Area 5 and maybe try to squeeze in like Illinois, something like that in the meantime. I just don't know. It's hard. I got a family. I got a young 3-year-old, so there's only so much time I can dedicate to traveling and stuff like that. And, especially moving up here, right? Like, we want to get out. We want to do more on weekends. See the sights, go visit new places. So
Well, you got to
it,
make sure you got to go to South Haven because that's not terribly far for you.
yeah, no, I've been up there. It's a really cool place.
Just
Really
eat
cool
you
place.
just eat all the blueberries. That's just all you got to do.
Oh, everybody did. That's what everybody talks about. Oh, the fruit up here and all this other shit. And I'm just like, just I did the best thing I love about up here so far is the wine, man. I'm gonna be honest. That's the best part about living in Michigan.
I mean, yeah, I
So
mean, there's nothing good about the cold. Now, the true question is, did the wife get a better job up here, or did you get the better job up here?
so I got the worst job up here. Wife has the same job. She's working for the same company. She just has the freedom to be able to basically live wherever she wants, right?
Hmm.
She works from home, so pretty good arrangement.
And you
Um,
chose to move to
yeah,
Niles, Michigan.
well, yeah, I'm so we live in St. Joe, and what it is like we would come up here once or twice a year, and I know it sounds really odd coming from Florida, right? Like we would come up here once or twice a year to visit her family who they have property in the area, vacation
Hmm.
homes, stuff like that. And dude, the area is gorgeous. Like, it's beautiful up here. It's temperate. The cold sucks, yes, but dude, I lived in Florida for 27 years. That heat after a while is unbearably miserable, right? So you're kind of like, maybe a change of pace is nice. And as much as I bitch about the winter, I'm sure as hell not missing the heat down there. That's for sure.
Hmm.
So, and now, right now it's getting to be the beautiful time of year. Hell, it was what, 70 degrees today. It was gorgeous. We
Hmm.
live, hell, not even a mile from Lake Michigan, take the boat out, do all other kind of fun shit. It's just a gorgeous area to live, man. People that haven't and I haven't experienced a lot of the other areas of Michigan. Um, but just a gorgeous area to even visit, just if you come up here.
Hmm. Now we just got to get you in tune with like the Michigander ways. Like you wear shorts with a hoodie and like other things. Like,
Yeah, right. Like I grew up kind of in Pennsylvania, so I'm real familiar with how it's very, very similar, right?
hmm.
Like it's just bizarre weather. One day it's gorgeous, the next day it's like 40 fucking degrees and miserable. And that our first match in the end of April, dude, it was snowing. I'm
Hmm.
like, it's the end of April, people. What is going on? And it was sleeting and snowing and cold. I'm like, this is crazy, man. Like, this is really crazy.
Yeah, that's where you turn every unloaded start into a loaded start because you're like,
Uh,
I'm not fucking loading my gun.
yeah, I mean, the weather, it was probably like you take the worst part of the Michigan sectional, and that was the best part of the weather on the first day of our match in April. It was something to see, right? And I'm used to shooting when it's 90 degrees and humid as hell and everything else. So
And everyone smells like swamp ass by the end of
oh,
it.
dude, and that's a real thing, right? Don't let anybody ever lie to you. Swamp ass is a complete real thing.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
y'all need to wash your asses.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now, oh God, damn it. Brain fart. Why did I have a brain fart? Because it was going to be a good question, but it's all
It
good.
happens to the best of us,
I'll
brother.
just keep rambling until it comes back to my head.
And that's essentially what I figured this podcast was going to be. Like, nobody's going to tune in for shooting expertise or advice from me, right? Like, it's just going to be random drunken bullshit and stuff like that. That's just kind of how I roll.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's a good way to segue into that. I guess is how the hell did you and Tom become friends?
So Tom and I actually started shooting at the same time, right? We started shooting at the same club, which is the Whack in Clearwater. And we would turn out, we would end up shooting on the same squad a lot of times. And not, you know, whether it was me or him or whatever, it was probably me because I tend to be kind of a closed off guy until I really get to know people. Like we knew each other, right? Like, but we just weren't really friends or we didn't communicate a lot. And, we got to shooting a match probably a couple months down the line together, and he just made a comment to me. And this was when Tom was new, right? Like I was new, Tom was new, and he just made a comment to me about something, and it was just like from there on, you know, that's we would just go back and forth and talk and hang. That's kind of what started us was his inherent, even though he didn't know it at the time, his coaching.
Mm-hmm.
He just wanted to help other people out, right? So he suggested something to me, and those were the first words we ever had. And then 3 years 4 years of shooting together, traveling everywhere together, stuff like that. And that's what I always say is, to me, the best part of USPSA is the people. It's the friends you make and the people you hang out with. That's what always kind of has driven me, really. It's just hanging out with your buddies, having a good time, shooting shit and everything else.
Oh,
So
well,
I
yeah.
think that's underrated a lot. And, I don't think people fully appreciate that sometimes.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I don't think they do. And this is why you come out and get ridiculed by your friends, is because you have a good time by doing it.
Oh God, yeah. And it's crazy. Like, we would have any newcomers or anything like that, and I'm sure the guys at Area 5 are going to get this in full witness, that if people didn't know Tom and I were as good as friends as we are, like, we constantly go back and forth with each other. You would think we fucking hated each other. He'd be like, "Shut the fuck up, Matt," all this other shit, and I would chirp at him, and he'd come back for me. But Tom is such a good dude. And I think that's what makes him such a great coach, is that he's so invested in people succeeding. And I think that's done really well for him. And I know you got to shoot Buckeye Blast with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was your first match shooting with him, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so, dude, I've probably shot, and this is no joke. I mean, if I went through and looked at my practice score shit, we probably shot 300 matches together over the years. Always squatted together, running the USPSA club together, all that. Dude, he's like a brother to me. He really is. Even though I don't want to admit it sometimes, but
Mm-hmm.
he really is. He is the salt of the earth, dude. And I love him to death.
Yeah. He definitely, for people who don't know Tom or haven't met Tom, he takes a certain person to enjoy Tom.
Yeah, it really does. And, sometimes he'll just piss me off to no end. And I'll be like, fuck you, Tom, and all this other shit. But, dude, it's just, I've met so many good people in this game, man. It's ridiculous. And he's definitely at the top of the list.
Oh, 100%. I'm really looking forward to him coming up to Michigan to teach again.
Yeah.
Which was out of the blue. I'll say this. Tom hit me up out of nowhere. He's like, "Man, do you know a range in Michigan that I could teach at?" I'm like, I mean, you are asking the guy who
Right.
helps run a range. Like, I got you. I
Yeah.
mean, it took me long enough to get the logistics of it taken care of and deal with the board and
Mhm.
which they don't understand how great it is to just say, yes, you can host classes here. Just have them pay the range fee and be like, cool. It took
Yeah, we were talking about, we're going to do one at my range next year. So, hopefully we get that scheduled out and everything else. So I know we've got your class in August that you're hosting.
Yep.
And then we're going to try roughly the same time frame, maybe next year, based upon what majors going on, stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's kind of how it landed. I feel it's kind of a nice time because it is before it's a month before open PCC Nats. It's 2 months
Mhm.
before. It's actually 3 months. It'd be like 3 months before iron sights. So give
Okay.
people time to really get trained up, take a
Yeah.
class, learn some stuff. Or you just come off of like, oh, or you come off of Optics Nats, get your ass kicked,
Yep.
go take a class, and then be better for later. There's
Yeah,
just
I like what motivation level is higher, right? Like going into CO Nats or coming out of CO Nats and shooting like shit, and you're like, I got to do something here. And there's a lot of good coaches out there. Don't get me wrong, but and I may be biased, but I think Tom's one of the best.
right. Well, and even like I finally signed up. I thought I was a skeptic for a while about online training, so I finally joined the. I got damn it! I've never logged in on my computer to the TCSA Academy, the coach,
Yeah,
like the online forum. It's kind of quite informational because you
yeah,
get to see all the YouTube videos that he doesn't post for everybody to see.
yep, yep, yeah. It's definitely good shit, man.
Well, and then
I've,
I'm
I've
always
taken I've taken Stager's class. Another guy, Tim Herron, absolutely awesome instructor. Love him to death too. Between him and Tom, dude, they're great guys.
100%. I love Tim. Tim's a good dude. I've taken 2 classes with him
Hmm.
because he'll teach up at way north of you. If you follow 131 like all the way up, you go to you get eventually to Cadillac,
Okay.
and then there's like a little town north of that called Lake City,
Yep.
and that's where Tim will teach up at MTC, the Marksmanship Training Center,
Okay.
in the middle of bumfuck nowhere.
Oh,
But
really?
oh yeah, like dude, there's nothing there. It's like the range is it's awesome. It's got 2,000-yard ranges for long range, an
Holy
NRL
hell.
22 range, a 270-degree bay that they shoot cars in, and well from
Damn.
cars, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
legit. It's like Tactical Timmy Paradise,
Oh,
um,
yeah.
that teaches that has like classes, but then they also have like, I think they're gonna do PCSL matches there this year.
I've kind of seen. I know they just ran one down at my buddy Jamie's range, and I saw a bunch of videos range down in Georgia. It looked like a really good match. I was like, that's an interesting thing to look into.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
And, and it's weird. I don't feel that there's enough weekends in the month to host every type of match we want. It just seems
oh
like
God, no, right? Like, and just the level of involvement, even pulling all that stuff off. Like,
well,
I mean, you guys that run like the level twos and shit, I don't know how you do it, man. Just the amount of work that goes into it's insane.
yeah, you need a lot of pre-planning. And if some
Yeah,
people can plan a match in 6 months, so be it. It's super hard. Like,
yeah,
but and I've had some local shooters like, hey, can we do PCSL at Brooklyn? I'm like, there ain't no freaking time on the schedule to do it.
yeah.
Like, nor
Well,
do
and just so having the logistic. I mean, it's not a big hurdle to overcome, right? But like you're talking different targets set, and then just reviewing the rules to make sure there's no shenanigans. You got to be up to date on a lot of shit to pull off stuff like that. But I think it would be a really cool thing to do at
Mhm.
some point, and hopefully it takes off, man. Because I like just looking at it at kind of a cursory glance. Like it seems to kind of check all the boxes, right? Like they seem to
Mhm.
have it kind of ironed out pretty well. And it's interesting, right? Like you have that K zone with one hit. It kind of lends itself to different approaches on it, and just seems really interesting.
Oh yeah, it is. I will totally try to go shoot a PCSL match, either
Yeah.
probably a one gun because I'm lazy, um, because I don't feel like taking two guns to a match with me for some reason.
Yeah, two gun matches are fun as hell. I shot a three-gun match one time. I will never do that again, man. Like just the whole process of all that. No, thank you. God bless those guys.
Oh yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'm gonna shoot a PCSL match. I don't have enough time in the schedule to honestly take care of any of that too. It's just like
Yeah,
I'd like for me, I drive 52 minutes to my home range. That is the closest range for me to go shoot USPSA at.
that's crazy.
Yeah, and people are like, "Why are you so involved?" Because it's me. I can't help it.
Yeah, like I said, dude, it's an addiction, right? Like you might as well stick a needle in your arm because that's what this shit's like.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And it's not cheaper. It definitely is not cheaper.
No, dude, that's what I think, dude. One, if I had a heroin addiction, I'd be a hell of a lot thinner than I am, and I'd probably have more money than I have shooting, right? Like,
Mhm.
it's crazy.
Yeah, definitely, definitely could be worse off.
Yeah. No shit.
Yeah, but brother, I've had a good time. I do have a couple more questions before we'll end this.
Yeah.
Do you? Well, no, can't ask that one because you'd probably get me banned. No, just kidding.
Oh, yeah. Come on, dude. You can't
No,
do that. You got to do it.
no. What else?
Well, we can always edit it out after the fact, right?
That is true. We could, but
Yeah. I mean, you're the king, dude. Come on.
I mean, let me get my little crown on, but
All right, let's go.
no. So I guess I don't know what are something that people can do, or what have you done in your to get out of your own way?
Oh, fuck, man. If I wish I had an answer to that. I can't seem to get out of my own way. Like,
Mhm.
in what regards exactly?
Like, so when I mean by get out of your own way, like what are like eventually, you eventually got out of C class, right? So at some point you had to figure something to stop doing something to eventually
Yeah.
get past it. Um,
For me, I mean, like I said, I'm not a practice guy. I'm not a dry fire guy. That's just not how I'm wired. I think eventually it's just time catches up with you, right? Like the more you do it, the better off you get. And, no delusion to ever winning nationals, any right? Like, so I accept the fact of the level, I'm not a casual participant. I'm definitely, I would think, more towards the hardcore scale, but not hardcore enough to where I'm practicing every day. I think, my level of involvement, in MDing and running matches and just shooting in general, I think it just naturally kind of not really talent bumps you, but you get the more you do shit, the slightly better you get, right? Like, if you want to be good at this game, like everybody says, go get some professional coaching, whether it's from Tom or Tim or, Stagger or any of those guys. If that's the approach that you want to take this game seriously, that's what you have to do to get better, right? But for
mhm,
me, it's just the casual level participation, stuff like that. That's just the type of guy I am.
right,
That's my involvement in the game, anyways. So,
right. That makes sense. Now, do you have any sponsors?
oh hell no,
Wait, yeah,
no,
you do.
no.
His name is Tom Castro
Yeah, dude,
Shooting Academy.
my sponsors are Visa, MasterCard, and Discover, baby. That's how it works. Um, it's just that and while that would be great, that's just not who I am or how I am, anything like that.
So what
Um,
you're saying is we need to get a strip club to sponsor you.
yeah, dude, I would be totally on board with that. If I could get sponsored by Jack Daniels or, some shit like that, I would be absolutely golden. Now, I'm not the guy that's just not how I am, right? Like I'm your everyday what was the whole thing, middle of the road B class shooter, just out there having fun, right? And I think that's for me, that's the most important part of the game. Just
Yeah.
having fun, stuff like that. I don't take it too seriously, and yeah, I get pissed off, and yeah, I've been known to rage quit a time or two during a match, stuff like that. Um, I get down on myself, and of course I want to do better, right? But it's just I recognize I'm almost 50 years old. It's just it's not going to happen for me or not my time. I'm just out to have a good time.
Right. Yeah.
So that's what I do.
Gotcha. Now, do you want people to find you on the internet?
Dude, if you want to scope me out on Instagram, I just generally post shit talking type stuff. B_class_trash on Instagram. Send me a friend request on Facebook. Come out to Bend of the River in Niles, Michigan. Shoot a local match with us. You'll have a good time. I can promise you that. That's the best I can offer you.
Yeah. They have people go, but really go to his matches because like when's your next? Well, this your next match will probably
So
happen
our
before this goes
Yeah,
live,
we
right?
we run on the fourth Saturday of every month. So kind of, when we talked about the indoor thing, what I'm really hoping is I know a lot of clubs up here, they will typically run from March to basically November. Um, Weather permitting, I'd like to do all year round. You know, if there's not a foot of snow on the ground, we'll go out there, or even if I have to drag myself out there and do it, I'll build 5 or 6 like speed shoots, medium courses in the wintertime. That's kind of what I'm thinking right now. Um, just because I'm such an addict, I want to shoot through the winter.
Mm-hmm.
And if the weather's not prohibitive, that's the goal we're going to kind of strive for right now. And, you know, the bigger part, you know, one of the best parts of the game for me is having other people involved, having people coming out, having people enjoying the matches, having a good time. That's really what USPSA is, right? Like, dude, obviously we agreed we're not going to talk about the drama and all the other craziness that goes on. USPSA starts at the local level and is about going out and supporting your local clubs, helping those guys out. You know, even if you show up a half an hour early, an hour early, and pound steaks for the guys building the match, that's the foundation of USPSA, right? Like you can nitpick all the other shit going on and everything else. That doesn't affect us at a local level. And that sure as hell doesn't affect the guys that are giving up their time to go out there and build those matches so that, you know, we don't build them for our enjoyment, and we sure as hell don't build them, you know, to improve our shooting, right? Because nobody's going to work or run a match and, you know, their shooting's not going to be the number one priority. It's always giving everybody the experience of coming out to that match, having a good time. So go out to your local clubs, get involved. You know, even if you're new, we have one brand new guy that showed up at our first match. He had shot one USPSA match. That dude was there. His name, if he happens to hear this, it's Chad Troutner. That dude showed up at 7:30 to help me build stages on a Saturday morning, only shooting one match. And he said, he sent me a message. He's like, dude, if you ever need any help, I'll be there. And that's, like I said, that's the foundation of what we're trying to build in the game, right? Like everything's based off the level ones and the local clubs, and you can deal with all the drama and all the bullshit going on, but get out and support your guys, man. That's the foundation of USPSA. It really is.
Oh,
So
100%. Absolutely.
that's kind of my spiel on it. Without the local guys, it doesn't happen. You know, you're not having the matches. We're not getting paid for this stuff. You know, we're not making any money on this stuff. We're doing it for the love of the game. That's really what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to enjoy my weekend, but I do it because I guess the gluttony of punishment to go set up
Yeah,
stuff.
right. And like, but it's nice when like I can't even go to another club and not want to help out, right? Like I get there early and be like, hey, what do you guys need? Even if it's holding targets for a dude that's stapling them when he's building the stage, that help is huge, right? Like just get involved. And it's kind of almost like a grassroots, it's like a grassroots effort, you know,
Hmm.
build it from the base and make the game better than it was.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Yeah.
But if you gluttons for punishment still listening to this, if you're in the Michigan area or
Yeah.
Indiana, Ohio, August 19th and 20th, come take Tom's class.
Absolutely. You
Sign up.
you will not regret it. And I can speak from personal experience. Definitely that is a course and a class that you want to attend to.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So go sign up. Be a glutton for punishment. Matt, brother, thanks for coming on. It's been a hoot.
Yep.
We'll have to do it
So
again at some
hey,
time.
Manny,
But,
can I plug a couple things real quick since I suck and have no sponsorship?
I mean,
Um,
absolutely.
TCSAcoaching.com. Go check out Tom's stuff. Um, that's really all I got. You know, that's it.
Mhm.
If you are in Area 6, please consider voting for Kyle Stevens. It would be great. Kyle loves games, doing a lot of good things. You know, whatever way you're going to vote, just at least get out and vote.
Yep. Get informed. Do go look at the God. What are those? Go look at what their answers to the questions on the
The
survey.
bios, the questions and answers type stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Like, you know, whether you want to vote for Ben Barry, Matt Hopkins, Kyle Stevens, doesn't matter. Just get out and vote. Like the level of participation we have from membership and voting is fucking embarrassing. Like
Mhm.
we have what 10% voting turnout in members in areas. just get out and please vote for these guys. These are the guys that make stuff happen, and they help us at the local level. So that's really cool.
Absolutely, 100%. Yes. So please go vote, and go check out all their bios. I don't know exactly when this is going to go live, so voting may has already have happened or not. I don't know because I'm too lazy to look at my calendar. But go vote because voting will still be open at least.
Yep.
But yeah. Listeners, until next time, get out and do the things, and I will see you on the next one.
Thank you, sir.